Welcome to Wednesday in Westeros. I'm Taylor Trask. With me is
Todd A.
And also, joining us as per usual.
Hi, Emily Kelly. First of her name, ruler of this condo, mother of cats, the Get-Turnt, maker of video games, hostess of fan theories.
Slytherin.
Get-Turnt.
Slytherin. I thought I was going to lose it at the Get-Turnt, but I'm glad I got through it.
I thought you were kidding about having a whole Stormborn intro for yourself.
No, why would I
not
talk
have
about
doubted.
that?
I don't
Why
know.
would I talk about that?
Exactly.
I love it. We're back. We're back here to review episode 3 of season 7, Queen's Justice, or as I like to call it, Cersei done fuck a bitch up. I think that was basically the vibe and the theme of this whole thing. But we got a lot to cover tonight, y'all. So I think you want to just jump right in at Dragonstone.
Let's do it.
So as per usual, we're going to kind of chop things up and kind of be more location specific instead of scene specific. But right out of the gate, the big scene that everybody's been talking about and everybody's been waiting for is, of course, Davos, looking at Dragonstone. What'd you guys think? Good.
The way he looks at castles is, yeah.
You
could see the wistfulness in his eye as he came up. No, everybody it's Daenerys and Jon Snow. Finally,
Ice and Fire.
I think Ice and Fire. They met. Finally, the show brought us there. I think it's something the book readers have been looking forward to since probably 1996, for a long time. So I guess let's just jump in right there. Was it worth the wait? Was it worth the hype? Todd?
No.
Emily, first of her name.
I thought more would happen, but I get it. Like, they gotta spread that shit out, a little bit.
Yeah. I was particularly struck by the fact that it was in this instance, there was a lot of pageantry going on Daenerys' side, and it was like almost pageantry versus practicality from Jon. Like, Jon's been so practical. It was kind of funny to see him just show up. And you got Daenerys in the Revolution, like giving her gigantic intro, and then the best part was, and then Jon looks over at Davos, and Davos is like, and he's Jon Snow.
Yeah,
just like it was just.
I also love his follow up where he goes, "He's the king in the North." Like, it's not even a title, just like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah, like this made up title that we've given him. Like, it's this guy. It's him, right?
I'm kind of half serious about the whole Daenerys and the Revolution thing. Like, their costumes are getting dangerously close to Purple Rain, and we got to just keep an eye on that stuff as we go.
I would not hate on them going crazy.
I wouldn't either. I'm into it.
I don't know. Me personally, like, it was never gonna be like bosom buddies. It was never gonna be like, he was never gonna bend the knee. I wish somebody had told her that ahead of time, because she seemed a little, obstinate about it. But it was, I'm glad there was at least a little give and take, and that, towards the end of the episode, she relented a little bit. I don't know. I was actually more, I thought Davos was more adorable than anything else during that scene. Cause he's just sort of there with Jon. He hasn't really known Jon as long as, like, Missandei has known Daenerys or anything. Like, he's still kind of a newbie to the Jon Snow world, but just having him there was interesting. I was a little surprised he didn't get to confront Melisandre. I was really sort of looking forward to that. I thought maybe she would stick around
That was so confusing for a number of reasons. Mostly that she could have confirmed, or at least in some respects, she would have confirmed all the stuff that Davos said,
Mm-hmm.
And like, maybe I don't know if she saw the White Walkers and the Whites, but I think she would have vouched for them telling the truth. And she would have explained, like, I resurrected Jon from the dead. Yeah.
That look he kind of flashed Davos when he mentioned that. I was really hoping they would have made more of that. Like, why not share that fact? Like, you're trying to convince her of, like, the impossible. Why not? I mean, maybe that was one thing too many. I don't know.
I don't really know why they didn't. Maybe, I'm sure they'll talk about it later, but I think, it's kind of one of those things, like, he's already trying to convince her, like, that these like mythological, like, creatures exist. Like, he's not about to tell her, like, yeah, I got brought back from the dead. Hey, even though she would probably understand since she also kind of had a rebirth of herself. But still, I'm sure they'll talk about it at some point. But yeah, I get it that maybe John didn't really want to bring it up. And maybe it's kind of a sore spot too of like his brothers murdered him. That's why he had to come back. Like maybe he didn't really want to talk about it. It hurts. It does.
Yeah, literally and figuratively. He's like, I was stabbed in the heart. I don't want to think about it. The question that I was thinking of, there was a lot of attention played to Daenerys and her legacy. And, you know, like they kind of, again, the pageantry of her being queen. And she's a lot of times she mentioned like, I'm going to be queen of the 7 kingdoms and you're one of the 7 kingdoms. And it made me think like part of the reason Westeros is in the state it's in is because there is one person trying to reign in all 7 kingdoms. And maybe that worked fine for a little while, but maybe is it just me or does that seem ultimately untenable? Like should that be the goal?
I mean, Emily, I think you should take this because like there's just a rant stewing in me against Daenerys. Unless
I already texted you about it. How dare you talk bad about her, Todd?
Do that first, and then you can rebut my Daenerys. But yeah, so go ahead if you got anything.
Okay. I mean, like I love her. Like I'm Team Dany, like all the way. I think she's great. But even I'm like, it seems a little entitled. I mean, but that's just like the monarchy. Like maybe it's just because we're Americans and we're like, fuck you, you're not entitled to anything. But it's like if your ancestors have ruled this specific area of land for thousands of years, like sure, that just like makes sense to you. You're like, well, of course I'm gonna come back and like people will like me and I'll rule again. You know, like maybe it's just sort of a, you know, we just don't get it. Like we're not part of that world so much. But yeah, I mean, it seems like why keep fighting with each other? You know, like why, you know, Dorne doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. The North doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. You know, just like kind of, you're still cool with like 5 kingdoms. Like 5 kingdoms is still like pretty good.
Totally. Well, and I was thinking too, like that Dragonstone throne room is pretty damn impressive. I'm like, why not just stay here and, you know, take what you can? Like in the mean, I understand that, you know, and she made a point too, saying like, I believed in me this whole time and God damn it, I'm going to be queen. And I just, you know, so I get that, but I'm like, dude, you've sort of won a little bit by just being here. Like, you know, do you have to go and repeat exactly step for step what your ancestors did? I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll try to make my rant succinct, which is I've disliked her from the get-go because she's so entitled. And there in a couple times in the last season, I thought, you know what? I think she's learned her lessons. She's figured it out. Like all sort of ruling, like, you know, classes are fundamentally corrupt. And she's going to go to Westeros as sort of a liberator or something like that. But she's not. I mean, to me, it's like, I don't understand what the storytellers are doing in this moment because it has made her unlikable to me for 7 years. But I just kind of think like, well, is there some long game they're playing where she will eventually become the Mad Queen and someone has to kill her and it'll, you know, we'll get one of those previously on and it's all her talking about how entitled she is to the throne, because I know that she doesn't have the intelligence of what's happening in the North, nor like in King's Landing exactly. She's so focused on just being this ruler. But I think her experience with all the slave cities would have gotten through her, you know, stupid Targaryen skull that like a ruling class is bad no matter what. Like you can't, you know, this is just a bad thing. You need to, we can't expect her to understand democracy in this world, but, you know, but that's what Bravos is. And that's what some of those the free cities are. And especially she should understand that Jon Snow doesn't kneel. Like he's part wildling basically in that regard. Just like the Dothraki are. The Dothraki don't kneel. They just follow strength. I don't know why she would ever expect someone. He doesn't know her strength. So why would he follow?
Well, I'm going to suggest it's because of Tyrion and his just continuous track record of terrible you know, this is again another episode where it's like everything goes to hell because of Tyrion. Like he could have bridged the gap a little bit better. He could have told Jon in his letter, hey, she's going to expect you to take a knee. I'm going to try to, you know, handle her on this side and you do what you can. But like, it was like, there was no, it's like both sides had no real clue what the other wanted, and it was just kind of awkward and strange, you know. I mean,
but I think they meant to do that. Like they're both kind of putting their trust in each other, like to not murder each other, like right off the bat. And then of course I think they kind of came to it at the end, like after Jon talks to Tyrion of like, look, why would she give you what you want if you're not going to give her what she wants? Like, you know, there has to be compromise there. And of course she doesn't know you and you don't know her. And like that, you know, all these people follow her for a reason, whether it's strength or the breaker of chains or whatever. And maybe Jon just kind of needs to figure that out for himself, just as she needs to figure out what his deal is. So, I mean, this is like the first meeting, but obviously he's going to be in Dragonstone for a little bit. So hopefully they can come together and, you know, but I think just, you know, I don't want to lay it on too thick about how much I love Dany, but I think she has had to deal with men who've underestimated her, who have hurt her, her whole life. And so I think she's just kind of, it's hard for her to get out of this mentality of like, I have to be like the big, you know, bitch in the room, basically. Like I have to show strength and be strong and like be solid for people to like me and follow me. And Jon doesn't need that. Like he doesn't need her to be big and tough and strong. He just needs her help. So I think maybe hopefully she can tone it down a little bit of she's fought so hard for so long that she has to learn kind of how to compromise.
Let me ask you, Emily.
I agree with all that, Emily. I mean, I just don't think that I mean, just what's so frustrating to me in any drama are like when people don't give each other the necessary information. And part of that is magic is real. Jon was brought back to life.
I know. It's so true.
But the other side of it is like Jon could have said, you know, let's parlay. Let's not have you like try to impose your will upon me in this throne room. Like, let's have a seat and talk this out. And let me explain to you this danger. But it was just this stilted conversation of like, I don't know. I was just very frustrated watching it. Like, it's like when I was watching, you know, Sansa and I'm like, tell Jon about Littlefinger for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like the Knights of the Vale are coming.
So many, like, did you guys ever watch 24?
A little bit.
Okay, yeah. So 24, like the whole series is like something will be happening with Jack Bauer, like a terrorist took his wife, and they're like, you have to come here by yourself and like get this plutonium or whatever. And so and it's like the whole like then he gets in trouble and like gets arrested or something. It was like you could have just said to your superiors, hey, these terrorists have my wife. I have to get this plutonium. I'm gonna go back later. But then it's like this whole thing. It's the same thing of like just be honest with each other. But I get it. I mean, you don't know who to trust at this point. Like Sansa didn't know she could trust Jon at that moment, and Dany and Jon don't know if they can trust each other. So
true.
Let's spend some time together.
Let's go back
I'm
to
just
Tyrion.
saying, I'm not gonna cry if Daenerys gets stabbed.
She's not going to get stabbed for a while. Daenerys has got to die. There's a bunch of lower level characters that have to die before she does. So I would hold on to that.
She's the fire and ice and fire. Okay, I don't
real
think
quick
she's
though.
Gonna make it.
A quick
Maybe
little
it's just the
aside.
dragons that make it.
Well, that's a good point. So, quick little theory. She mentioned the names of the dragons quite a bit this episode, and like that was brought up a bunch of times. I take that as foreshadowing that one of the dragons might die sooner than later. And I'm just, I just can't see it, especially because she's like, yeah, I named them for my brothers. One of my brothers is dead. You know, they're awesome. You know, I haven't used them yet. There's been that sort of, you know, everybody's been cautioning her not to use them. It kind of felt really foreshadowy that something may happen to one of them, which is going to blow the whole three-headed dragon thing completely out of the way. It's going to squash quite a few tangential, fan theories out there.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I just hoped it was like they were mentioning it because, like, to kind of reinforce this thing about like that Jon is her nephew, like to mention Rhaegar's name once again. But they've been kind of doing that a lot of just like name dropping Targaryens. Like they've said Aegon like 50 times in 3 episodes. You know, they said Brandon and I forget what I think Ned's father was named Rickard as well. Brandon and Rickard Stark, the Ned's father and brother being burned alive. They said that at least 2 or 3 times. Like I think maybe they're just kind of like trying to remind us of some stuff that we have forgotten because it's 7 long years of this show and with 7 long years of a lot of really hard names to remember.
That's a good point. And also, like in the books, it's not even that important in the books, but even in the books, you get at least the sense that people are talking about that history of the Targaryens. And in the show, we just, it's just not as like front of mind for us. Like we're just not thinking of her family has this really deep legacy within Westeros. We've only ever seen her in in Essos, I guess. And so I can't remember if that's technically Essos or whatever. But
yeah, it is Essos.
Okay. So I think a lot of that's done like Emily said, to remind us, but also to establish like this sort of longer history that has been there. It just hasn't been talked about as much on the show as it is in the books.
True that. Let's go back to Tyrion though, because I don't want to drop this.
You said last week that you were like, he just gives these bad or strategic advice, and I kind of defended him.
I've been saying it since before last week. All of last year when he finally made it to Daenerys, it seems like everything he suggested backfired, and I have been pushing for a while. Like, why does she keep him around?
And I tried to defend him, but I'm in your camp now.
I don't understand how you can. Like, he's gotten, like, in quick order, he has gotten 3 entire allies captured or killed basically instantly, and she's losing. She's got the upper hand, and she is losing because of Tyrion.
Yeah. She is, like, her army has literally been decimated because of him.
And it's like, and not even that, he had this sort of hard on to take back Casterly Rock, and that went poorly. It's like, for every lesson that Cersei and Jaime have learned from their failures, Tyrion has not. It's almost like he's willfully ignorant of any. It's like all the things that he's done in seasons 1, 2, and 3 that worked. It's like he's just completely forgotten. And it was even more apparent to me when Davos was there, and he's like, yeah, I was there at the Blackwater Bay. Like, we won because of me. And Davos was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, he sort of just waved it. He just sort of waved it aside. And I'm just like, Tyrion's kind of like, he's like an old failed rock star living on his one hit.
Well, and like in season 2, when he's Hand of the King of Joffrey, there's this sort of feeling of like, oh wow, we didn't even know he was like this great commander. Like Tyrion has like, he's been such a little plotter that he's got all these strategies already adapted for military use or whatever, but he clearly doesn't.
Emily, if you were Daenerys, would you keep him or would you fire him?
I would fire him, probably. I mean, I would keep him around. It's not like I would like banish him forever, but I would get someone else. Like, and I think that's what ultimately Jorah's role will become.
Oh,
is that he was a knight and a warrior and has seen battle and like knows Westeros and knows these people. And I mean, his dad was Commander of the Black. Like, I think once Jorah comes back, there'll be a lot of tension between him and Tyrion to kind of like have the queen's ear.
Great call.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I'll tell you, my frustration with the show here is that Cersei and Jaime had a really great strategy, and I wish they had just showed them. I wish they had just shown them talking about it, and then the tension would have been planted in our minds, like, oh my gosh, Tyrion has a good strategy, but they also have a good strategy, and how's this going to play out? And so when we saw it play out, it might have been more exciting, instead of this sort of almost flashback kind of way where they told the storming of Casterly Rock.
Well, let's jump to that, because this is my chief complaint about this episode was anything involving Casterly Rock.
Yeah.
And let's take that and Highgarden in one chunk. Like, this entire time, like, as I mentioned before, I own the World of Ice and Fire, that amazing compendium book that, was, co-published or co-written by Martin himself. And just in general, like, there's a lot of fan drawings and concept art, art out there depicting different things in Westeros. Some of it better than the show, some of it worse. But of all the things, every time I've seen a conceptual art of Casterly Rock, it's always really impressive, and it's never been shown on the show before. So they've kind of built it up to be this like mythic, thing. It's an impenetrable fortress, even more so than the Eyrie, because we've seen the Eyrie, and it's like, the Eyrie is pretty cool looking. And then when the show actually gives it to us, I had to stop it and rewind it, because I'm like, did I miss something? It was this like lame ass model that's kind of not even really on a rock so much. It's just kind of on a, it's basically where Tony Stark's house would be. And it's just like, what what is this? And the fact that it just sort of felt so plain, like as you know, as they've talked about their massive wealth as Lannisters, and you know, Tywin's pride and all this, you know, Casterly Rock was like the jewel of his crown. And I'm just like, this is what we've been talking about this whole time. Did anybody else feel that way?
Oh yeah, for sure. But in its defense, it definitely looked like the castle where a bunch of douchebags would have grown up.
No, that's true. I'll give you that. It didn't help though. I mean, it didn't help that the entire battle around it was like the lowest budgeted, you know, fight sequence I think we've ever seen on the show. Like even more so than the one where Tyrion, remember in season 1 where Tyrion just blanks out like Bilbo Baggins and he wakes up. It's like the war is over. And it's like, you know, and you can forgive it then because it's like, oh, this is just season 1 and, you know, they're saving it. And that was actually kind of clever because we're seeing it from his point of view. This was totally different. This was just a cheap, like, I feel like there was like 10 extras to play the Unsullied and they just kept showing them again and again and again in different setups, you know? Like I couldn't even keep track of what was going on. Oh, it was just
when they opened the gate
gross.
and they showed all of them flooding in, I literally thought that I caught the moment where the loop like repeated itself in the digital animation.
Yeah.
It was like I was like, that's what just happened. It was like a glitch.
It was not good. It was surprising in season 7 that they're still doing that. And I'm like, what are they saving? They better be saving their money for something pretty damn impressive.
Well, I feel like they have to do a lot. I mean, they're animating 3 dragons for at least the most of the episodes, and the White Walkers, like the giant White Walkers, and like, I mean, they're blowing their budget in CGI because they've never done it like any other season. It's like, remember like when their dragons were first babies and we'd only get to see them for like 2 seconds for like 4 episodes or something, like because they're like saving it for battles and stuff. Now they're like, no, fuck it, these dragons are big, like what are we gonna do with them? Like we gotta like make them cool.
They only have so many polygons per episode.
Yeah. Of like, we don't give a shit about Casterly Rock, but I really want those dragons to look baller. So
yeah, they really need to the structure. And they did. They totally did.
And they do, yeah.
Yeah.
But what was nice, the one thing I did appreciate about Casterly Rock is that Jaime Lannister pulled a complete Robb Stark and took the army to Highgarden instead, and suspiciously quickly, I might add. Like they were there pretty damn fast. You know, at this juncture, I just feel like the Westeros Hyperloop must be fully active and you know, running. But I like the fact that he basically again learned from his mistake. You know, at the defeat of Robb, he's like, okay, well that'll never happen again. And in fact, I'm going to steal that one for future reference. He gets there. You know, Olenna's looking from the window. None of this was surprising. She's the last of the Tyrells. The Tyrell dynasty had pretty much ended last year when Cersei blew up the Sept. So Olenna was basically just, you know, biding her time anyway. I thought she had a pretty baller ending personally. You know, she pretty dignified, and then she got to have one final little jab at the Lannisters by admitting to Jaime that she was the one who poisoned Joffrey, and he literally didn't. I mean, he looked completely shocked by that. Like, I don't think he had any inkling of that.
No.
Yeah, she super went out like a boss. Like this is like I wouldn't have appreciate anything less than like what happened really. And I mean, obviously someone was pointing this out to me today of I mean, just her is super cool. Like that's such a cool way to go out of like, oh yeah, and I killed your son, bye, you know, like just like that is like the last word. But it also says a lot, it means a lot for Jaime going forward, because one, now he has to tell Cersei, sorry guy, that sucks for you. And 2, he now knows for sure that Tyrion didn't do it.
Good point.
Which could, if Tyrion ever comes back, like remember we talked a lot about like, or maybe this was in the fan theories, like at the end of all this, like would Tyrion let Jaime be the Lord of Casterly Rock? Would he join them? Would he kill Cersei? All these things. So now he knows for sure, like maybe he, you know, he could still think maybe Tyrion conspired with her, but at least he knows for sure she ordered the poisoning of him. And yeah. Like that's a great point. There was a lot of good information about Jaime delivered in that scene. That was the other thing that he could, like Cersei, we saw just like super wicked and brutal with Ilaria and Tyene, I think her name is.
Oh, we'll get there.
Tyene.
Oh yeah. And so, but then Jaime in this moment, like this woman has told you that she murdered your eldest son in front of you, basically.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, like, he could have stabbed her, he could have choked her, he could have done anything. He just walks away. Like, it really says a lot about his character, just the quality of his character, that he knows she's going to die and just kind of lets it go.
I was surprised.
Called him out with that whole thing of like, has it already gone that far? And he acknowledges, yes.
Meaning his relationship with Cersei.
It's beyond my control. Like he's just in it with Cersei, no matter how mad she is.
Well, and that's important too, because I have kind of held out the fact that Jaime would, outlive Cersei, have to, have another sort of evolution as a character. Maybe he'll be important at the Wall or something. Now I'm pretty much convinced that when she dies, he's going with her. It's going to be a true, a pure Romeo and Juliet sort of play. He's still, there's still vestiges of the original Jaime there, which is good. He's not, completely reformed yet. I would wonder what Brienne would think of who he's become. Would she appreciate that? Would she not? It'll be, because, they had that really nice arc together as characters. It seems like that she was a lot of his anchor to sanity. And maybe she comes back and plays a role somehow. I don't know, but I just felt like this was the episode that really nailed in the coffin that Jaime's not, he's going to go down when she goes.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
I actually thought there was hope that like Jaime and Brienne would sort of ride off into the sunset together. But what's going on with Jaime right now, there's no way to do that.
Yeah. Real quick though, on the way to Highgarden, we saw like the Lannister army. We saw Jaime. We saw Bran riding shotgun with them. That was a little disconcerting because we haven't seen Bran for a while. I had forgotten that he was that tight with the Lannisters now, and it immediately brought to mind that the question of, at some point, the Lannister contingent and Bran are going to face off against Tyrion and the Targaryen and Daenerys' crew. Like, what's that going to be like? If Tyrion and Bran were tight, even though he was paying Bran, is that going to be what could we expect from that?
It's bad news.
Enough said.
I mean, I don't really understand. Bran owes his title and his land to the Lannisters for sure, and he was definitely chummy with Jaime on their little misadventure to Dorne. Yeah. But I don't know why he I just don't know why he would take sides in that fight. But
because they have money.
What's more interesting is that we also saw Randall Tarley, which disconfirms Emily's theory from last week, which is that he would not break faith with the Tyrells. So he did break faith with the Tyrells to invade or conquer Highgarden or whatever. So that is
why you got to play me like that, Randall Tarley? How dare you?
Yeah. What was great about Highgarden from a story standpoint was that it was Cersei's solution to the Iron Bank of Braavos. And let's go to King's Landing next, because that I was convinced her undoing would be at the hands of Mycroft Holmes and the Iron Bank, because
I was going to call him that too.
Because I just thought they've sort of established themselves as they don't jack around. They're pretty serious about their investments, blah blah blah. And when she told him, "Oh no, a Lannister always repays his debts," and I thought, "Oh, you're just tossing that phrase out there." It wasn't until they started going after Highgarden I was like, "Oh shit, that's her solution. It's just to rob Highgarden dry and then just pay off the Iron Bank." Pretty goddamn adept, if I must say. I did not expect that out of Cersei.
That is insane. For real.
It was a pretty gangster move. This entire episode was just full of Cersei gangster moves. And I had gotten sort of sick of her last season, and just to see her, it's interesting because she's doing the things I never thought she'd do. She's actually proving herself her father's daughter, right? Yep. She's quickly righting her mistake. She made a massive mistake when she enabled the High Sparrow and the Faith Militant last season, to her own, 2 seasons ago, but to her own, detriment. And it's like she's going back. She's righting those wrongs, and she's doing the thing. There's that scene between her and Tywin a couple seasons ago where he specifically tells her, "You're not as clever as you think you are. That's your problem." And I feel like she's actually earning the true Lannister moniker now. Like, she's as interesting and clever as Tywin was, because if you think about it, Tywin is the reason they were rich. He built them up from essentially nothing, right? And Cersei's taking it to that next level. She's making them she's building their dynasty. And I was really sort of surprised that she's winning. I mean, right now, does she deserve to win? That's probably the better question. Does Cersei deserve to be the winner or even the hero, just so to speak, of the show.
No, I mean, I don't think she deserves to win. I mean, she's just really, really brutal. And I think I tweeted this too. I'm super into that. Like, there's so few shows that let women be this like cruel, like be the bad guy in this manner. And I mean, it's shocking, I suppose, but I always anticipated this for her. And I think Sansa and Arya both say something very similar of like, oh, Cersei would do that. Or like, oh, you only she would think of this. You know, so things like that. And I think like Dany too, Cersei has been underestimated and hurt by every man in her life, except for maybe Jaime, maybe a little bit Jaime. And so finally, again, this is her time. And Sansa too. So it's Sansa, Jaime, it's Sansa, Cersei, and Dany, all in this club of like, we were beaten down for so long, and now this is our time to do what we were born to do. And Cersei's brand of being born what she's born to do, you know, is a little brutal and messy and gross. But I mean, it wasn't like shocking to me that she was capable of any of this or that she would do any of this.
Yeah. I'm reminded of that line from Olenna Tyrell last year where she looks at Cersei before she heads back to Highgarden, and she's like, you have 1,000 enemies on all sides of you. What are you going to do? Kill them all yourself? And it's almost like Cersei's answer was, yep. Like it's going to happen. Here's a good question. And Todd, maybe you can answer this one too. Does Jaime know she cheated on him with Lancel? Has that come out to Jaime?
We talked about that last week. Yeah,
we did. Okay.
And we think so, right? We think
we do.
We didn't actually.
For sure.
I didn't go confirm
that.
For
sure he does. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. I'm just putting that in that puzzle because she was pretty. I mean, I don't want to use the word rape in this case because he wasn't saying no per se, but she did come up there and basically manhandled him pretty quickly, and he hasn't. He just sort of went with it. And during that scene, I was wondering, I'm like, does he know yet? Does he really know? Has that come out? I mean, and as you said, it has, and just with that scene with Olenna, it's pretty clear he's in. I loved her revenge on Ilaria Sand. That was pretty damn poetic. And just, it was, I don't know. What did you guys think? What would, cause obviously something was going to happen, some kind of revenge, some kind of justice, a queen's justice, you might say, was going to happen. But what did you expect before that actually played out?
I was prepared for something so gross that I was actually really relieved. And I thought I'd noticed that she was in new lipstick, like when that scene.
I did too. I was like, wow, her lips are like really pink.
Yeah, but I was watching on this crazy TV with friends that like had a lot of light in weird places during the show. So I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong. And then when she walked over to her and pulled the gag out of Taheen's mouth, I was like, oh shit. So
yeah.
I mean, I put this in the notes, like Ilaria is awful. And I don't know why, if we were ever supposed to sort of be on her side, but Cersei's right. Oberyn won that battle against the Mountain. And then he tried to dance on the grave of the Mountain by taunting him. And, the Mountain crushed him. Like he'd won. All he had to do was step away and the poison would have killed him. Yeah. And Ilaria, she kills Prince Doran, who is like the only fair-minded, like sane and strategic thinker in Dorne, and probably in most of the southern half of the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah. She killed this legendary fighter, Areo Hotah, who is a big deal in the books, but they really underused him. So I just felt like good riddance. Like, let's get out of Dorne, get rid of them. Like, she's a terrible person, Ilaria. So that was, I was kind of like saying like, yeah, you think you're terrible, but you're not even as terrible as Cersei. Like you messed with the best, I don't know.
Yeah. Like you come for the king, you best not miss. Or the queen, I suppose, in this instance, because and I mean, I felt as soon as we were introduced to Dorne and we didn't get the true storyline from the books, I was like, well, what the hell are they going to do with this now? Like, I think they just kind of strung it along for the sake of like, keeping characters in line, truncating some characters and storylines for out of Dorne and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm not super sad to see them go. They were cool, I suppose, but yeah, it was getting crowded at this point in the series where we're just like, well, I think we're done with
the last time we saw Cersei take as much satisfaction was when she was basically punishing the Septon woman. I forget what her name is, the nun. Oh
yeah, Septon Mordain, I want to say.
Whatever her name is, the one who followed her with the bell and chanted shame.
Yeah.
Down. I just remember when she finally got her come up, and seriously just was so. Lena Headey played that so well in terms of just like, she was nourished by that woman's suffering, and I think this is the other situation where she's been, she says it, she's like, I dream of how I can punish my enemies every night, and I've been thinking about this one for a while, and I was just like, oh, here we go. And it was just like, and just the cruelty of her going, and guess what? Not only am I going to kill your daughter, you're going to watch her waste away. We're going to keep you alive so that you can watch it happen. I was like, I even texted Todd. I was like, oh my God, Cersei's so gangster. Oh my God. Great.
I just, to jump to Todd's fears and hangups. The scene right after that, she kisses Jaime first on the lips and then in a very sensitive place. And I was like,
"Oh, she wipes her mouth."
Yeah,
and takes
sure. I don't know. I just felt like this is,
But did you want to see her going to the queen's room, basically like to powder room to
for sure.
Water
like
in her face or something.
Yeah, it was like when Sam shook Bora's hand, and I was like, "Oh, dude, get the Purell."
I thought that too, and I was just like, "Don't do it, don't do it." Well,
The only way that made sense to me was because Maester Broadbent was like, it looks like he's all healed. Should be good to go. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well,
if he wasn't there, I'd have been like, dude, you probably shouldn't just touch him right now.
Yeah. Take a lot on faith, Sam.
We should mention Euron's, triumphant march through the city, which made no sense to me because I just don't understand why the people of King's Landing care who the winner and loser is in that battle at all.
Yeah.
So it just felt really staged and weird to me.
Jamie mentions that he's like, these same people were like throwing shit at my sister, not like 6 months ago. Like this can change. I loved it though, and I texted Todd this too. I was like, Euron Greyjoy is officially the Donald Trump of Game of Thrones. Right? He loves adoration, he loves chaos, and he loves giving the middle finger to decorum. Like Jamie's face when he's like, when Euron mentioned the finger up the butt thing about Cersei was just priceless. Like this whole episode was like Nicola Costa-Waldau's like greatest hits of like confused, annoyed faces. It was so brilliant. And then the other thing it reminded me of too was that like Euron Greyjoy is the pirate we deserve, right? Like he's as all he needs is a peg leg or a parrot or some kind of affectation, like because he's just like. He may as well just walked in town going, "Arr, we got him, matey!" It's like he's just so boisterous and flamboyant. Like he's gone from being that character I could have given two shits about to all of a sudden I'm like, I kind of want him to hang around a little longer just to like throw chaos and and just random asides into the happenings.
Me too. And like in the books, he is like way more piratey too. Like he has an eye patch.
Wow. Really? Doesn't he have a parrot or an eagle or something crazy?
Yeah, I think he has either a falcon or a monkey. I don't remember what it is.
A monkey. That's right.
I think it is a monkey, but like legit. Yeah, and I think they were just like people were gonna get him confused with Benedict Dondarrion, like that he also has a but I was just like, please, he like needs more pirate-ness. I totally agree, but he is funny.
I agree with all your adjectives. I just disagree that he's the Donald Trump of the show because Robert Baratheon was the Donald Trump of the show.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Incompetent, fat, sleeping around, grabbing pussy. That guy. Yeah, gored on his own stupid pleasure cruise, like not moving out, hunting boars every weekend. Like if he owned golf courses, that guy would be at them.
Speaking of pirates, though, whatever happened to Salador Sahan?
He just sailed
off. Like,
if you remember, Salador Sahan was the African American pirate. Well, in the context of the show, the black pirate that popped up in season 2. That was kind of friends with Davos a little bit. He was like I remember him specifically because he was also really like over the top and piratey. He's like, I am Salador Sahan. I am the greatest seaman of all time. And it's like it would seem like if anybody could give Euron a run for his money, or it'd be opportune just to throw him back in for a second or two, it'd be that dude. But
I was just like, he like pieced out. He's like, after the Blackwater Bay fiasco, he's like, half of my ships are burnt. I'm going home, my wives and my 16 daughters. Like I'm leaving. Bye. And that was
He
it.
leans over to Davos. You should go home to your wife too. Oh, she's okay. She'll be fine.
Remember her?
Yeah, she's fine.
You brought all your kids over here and had them all killed by Tyrion.
Let's move on to Winterfell, which is not much to say about Winterfell other than, Sansa's running around, being in charge and stuff. And
she's not micromanaging.
Oh, there's no leather on your breastplates. I'm an expert in armoring now.
Well, they would have done it fucking wrong if she hadn't said anything.
I just love
Maybe
that
they were
Lord
putting it on later.
I just love that Lord from the Eyrie is like, yes, ma'am. Have you ever put leather on your armor? Like he's such like a pompous like butler character now. Like that, you know what I'm talking about, that one Lord.
Royce, is it Royce? Yeah.
Yeah, like I just love that he's hanging around. Like he could have gone back to the Eyrie at any time, and he's just like, I'll stay and offer some wisdom. Yeah.
I love that he always has a breastplate on. Like he always has armor.
That's a great note. Yeah, that guy is like terrified all the time.
Always be prepared. We in the Eyrie, even though you can never attack the Eyrie, we always train.
Yeah.
I think he even had it on when they like talked candidly to Sansa, like back in
he did.
You're right.
Did.
At the council, like the small council of the Eyrie.
Yeah. He has it on like when they're watching little Robin Aaron like be a doofus with the sword. He's sitting there in the hot sun with his breastplate. I'm like, dude, nobody's gonna attack you. Like you can take that off. It's fine.
He's like, I can't. I've actually grown so fast that it's impossible to take off, and I don't want to. I'm insecure about it, so I'm just going to keep it on. In old times.
So, Emily, did you feel anything when Bran showed up?
No, I'm just like, what? Great, cool. Now he's here. Great. I thought you were Arya. God damn it.
Well, yeah, that's just it. I thought for a split second, I'm like, ooh, it might be Arya, because they kind of like kept it. The camera panned and it kind of moved through the crowd. I'm like, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? It would have been hilarious if it was like Ned Stark. It's like, he's back.
he got better. He's fine.
That's how Lady Stoneheart's revealed.
That Arya was in that crowd. She's just waiting to like peel her face off and reveal herself.
Ooh, maybe she's there like surveilling before she, to just get a sense of she's going Odysseus and hiding out before she makes her reveal.
So Emily,
I'm giggling at your show notes though.
Emily,
I think who is this old man who sounds like Johnny Cash?
Like there was such a long pause when Sansa sees Bran that I was like, I know she's thinking like, who is this?
Yeah.
I really saw so many like funny tweets like from last night, and I'm like, so people said it like way better than I did, but like as soon as he started to talk to her and stuff, like I always didn't like him. He's super boring and like nonsense, and so I'm sure we'll talk more about like what a dick he is for talking to her about her rape and like second forced marriage, but like that he is like that little brother, like he's like the the youngest brother who like went to college and then like became a philosophy major and then like did a semester abroad in like Tibet or something.
Yeah. I don't want to be king anymore. I'm not the Lord of the North. I got bigger things to do.
I see everything and nothing. And Sansa's like, okay, I haven't seen you in like 10 years. Like, that's all you want to say to me?
Yeah.
I'm the Thread
Raven. Burning Man.
The Thread Raven is me. It's like, what does that mean? It's complicated. I can't talk about it. You don't know.
So, like, if you wouldn't understand, and Sansa's like, bitch, try. Like,
Emily, you got to drop this crazy Bran conspiracy theory on us.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw this today on HuffPo. It actually makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I love fan theories. So the fan theory goes like this. So I mean, it could just be attributed to like Bran is a dick, and like he just doesn't want to explain being the three-eyed raven to Sansa because he doesn't think she'll understand. But so the theory goes like, he says, I am the three-eyed raven, whatever. And then he goes, the three-eyed raven taught me. And she goes, I thought you were the three-eyed raven. And he goes, it's complicated. Instead of saying something like, a normal person would say like, oh, it's a title, it's not just like a thing. It's
right.
There was another one. There was like this old man in a tree and he taught me all these things. That would have been like a simple, Sansa would still have been like, what the fuck? But it would have been a simple explanation of like, oh, okay, so there was one before. And so the theory goes that because we've seen that Bran in his wargy three-eyed raven nonsense can affect the past with Hodor, and that Ned turned around when he said dad, like in the Tower of the Joy scene, that the three-eyed raven that we met, the Max von Soden, was Bran in the future, was like future Bran or whatever. And so like little Bran is Bran from what I don't know. They didn't explain the timeline aspect of it, but that basically that the three-eyed raven has always been Bran.
Right. He's immortal.
I got to say that makes that is incredibly intriguing to me. The other thing that article mentioned, and I forget who they were quoting, but I think it was one of the showrunners, Weiss or Benioff, but they mentioned like no line is ever wasted on this show. There was some kind of like, mythic statement like that made. And it's like, why would Bran simply say why wouldn't he just say, oh no, there was a three-eyed raven and I became the new one. Like, why couldn't, why they're all familiar with titles being passed down throughout the years. Like, so it would have been very easy to do that. Instead, he's just like, you don't know. He's just so cryptic, so it's like that. I would love if he's kind of like Bad Wolf from Doctor Who, like he makes himself.
Yeah, exactly. I love, that's a really good, I was trying to think of like a really good comparison, and that's a really good one. Yeah.
So he's not like Green Lantern where they just hand off the ring.
No, I mean, the ring chooses them. Okay.
Right.
The ring chooses the wizard.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think they do bring up in the Huffington Post article that it is slightly out of line with like the book established canon where the three-eyed raven is Brendan Rivers, but
which would also be cool, to be fair, because he's like a Targaryen bastard. So it was like that because of the three-eyed raven, maybe Bran is the third head of the dragon because it's like his memories or his powers or whatever was from the Targaryen line. It could still be cool, but I just like this theory of that maybe Bran is, because I think we've talked a lot about that Bran is a time traveler. That was one of like the most prevailing Game of Thrones theories. So we'll see. It might be true.
I can't wait. Let's look at next week. It not a lot in that trailer looking ahead, but the one thing that I took from it was just the fact that I think Dany's finally going to take Olenna's advice. And, when she said, "You're a dragon, be a dragon." Like, I think that's finally going to happen. I look forward to her finally just shouting Tyrion down, doing what she wanted to do this whole time, ride her dragons in the battle, just start mowing down motherfuckers everywhere. Like, I feel like it'll be episode 4. We've got to see that sooner or later. Right. I mean,
yeah, I'm excited. I think she has nothing to lose really at this point. Like, her 3 main allies are dead and Jon isn't exactly like forthcoming with help. So I think she's kind of at a point where she's like, I'll do it myself. Like, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to go and don't tell me what to do. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to fly across the ocean and find those ships and burn them alive. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, there's nothing, I have no other way to be in this fight than to be in this fight.
Yeah, exactly. And she says too, she's like in the trailer, she's like, I'm losing. It's like, yeah, you are. I want there to be consequences. I want people to be fired, White House secretaries to leave and a new team of a board related
scrolls, 2-week notice scrolls.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh,
the one thing
scrolls.
Before I forget, the last thing that I was kind of sad about, real quick, we'll never get to see Olenna Tyrell and Lady Mormont in a scene, and that pains me. But
yeah, that's true.
It was worth it. Diana Rigg had a great going out. So that just means more awesome badassery from Lady Mormont somehow in the future. Hopefully, it means now what I really want is Daenerys and Lady Mormont to have a scene, and Daenerys to go, "You remind me of somebody I knew once," and referring to Olenna. Just some kind of callback or something would be fun. Todd, anything from you about next week? Anything you're expecting?
No, I'm like you. It kind of, the preview whizzed by me pretty fast, and I didn't, that's what I took away from it. Daenerys is finally gonna strike out.
Well, we'll hang tight, and we'll be talking about that episode again next week. In the meantime, Emily, where can folks find you online?
You can yell at me about Game of Thrones or other things on Instagram and Twitter at that Emily Kelly. And there's a new fan theories this week. It would have been out on Monday if you're listening to this on Wednesday. It's all about Harry Potter, and I didn't cry once.
Barely.
Oh, I got choked up in one part talking about Neville Longbottom because I always cry talking about Neville. But I held it together, and so I think it's a really good episode. And it was on Harry Potter's birthday, so it was perfect. And you can find, and J.K. Rowling's. She gave her character her own birthday, so I appreciate that. Easy to remember.
Excellent. And Todd, where can folks find you?
You can find me at Hey Todd A, and you can find all of this goodness on Stitcher and Google Play and iTunes and SoundCloud and findusthere.org, which is where you can find fan theories also. Please go there and find all the places to subscribe to these podcasts. What about you,
Subscribe,
Taylor?
give us comments, all that kind of good stuff. You can also find us on social media. Find us there. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all of the above. It's been fun, guys. It's 4 more to go, I think, and then we're done.
Oh my god.
I guess I'll just close by saying Azor Ahai to you, Emily, and Azor Ahai to you, Todd.
7 blessings to you.
7 blessings, bitches.